Okay, so we're headed to the woods. Today we're just getting ready for the whole maple syrup season. Traditionally, sap gathering was done with a bucket attached to each tree. So you'd go to each tree, you'd drill a hole in the side, you'd put the tap in, which is called a spile, and you'd hang a bucket on that spile, and then when the sap was flowing, you'd have to go back to that bucket, which generally was 2 to 3 gallons, and collect that sap from that bucket every day. So we have 250 taps here. That's a lot of work. A commercial operator might have 2,000 or 3,000 taps. And even in that case, traditionally they would go to each tree and collect that bucket. As time has gone by, an innovation is to connect all of the trees in this sugar bush, which is what you call a collection of sugar maples. They're all connected with a tubing system. So a tube goes to each tree that we're tapping. We tap that tree. The sap comes out of the tree into the tubing system. It goes downhill. It's all gravity in our system. Goes downhill. It gets collected into a larger piece of tubing, which continues downhill and then is collected in a big tank. We have several zones throughout the woods. We have 5 different zones. Each has about 50 trees that drain into the tank on that zone. And we do that because with the different slopes, we want to have gravity feed, and so we have to divide things up that way. So the first thing you have to do is look on the tree and see where it's been tapped before. So that, was several years ago. There was a tap there. That was, before that there was a tap, and the tree has healed that up nicely. I'm kind of looking back over this way. I don't see anything right here. So I want to be at least 2 inches over and 2 inches up or down. If I was, a little bit farther over, say 3, and even a little farther up or down, I just want to be somewhere away from where it's been tapped before. Because what the tree does is when it's tapped, it'll kind of wall off that area as sort of injury, and you won't get real good sap flow into that hole if you tap right there. Pick a spot in here. Doesn't really matter if I'm down low or up high. I just got to make sure that I can get my tap to it. That would be straight in. I'm going to be a little bit of an upward angle. And I'm going to just do this kind of a little at a time. Like that. Make sure it's all nice and cleaned out. That looks good. I've got this little can of compressed air. This is a kind of a little extra deal. And I'll just shoot that in there and get it all nice and cleaned out. And then I'm going to put this little, this is kind of an extra thing that we do here, just this little piece in here. It's something that we can use one year and throw away. It keeps the whole area a little bit cleaner so you don't get bacteria forming. How a spile hole fails is that over time, there's bacteria in the air, the season goes on, it gets a little warmer, all the pores in that hole will clog up with bacteria and you won't get good sap flow. So this kind of keeps the hole clean a little bit longer. So I'm going to just tap that in. Hear that little change in noise there? So that's good. I'm going to put this guy in there, kind of twist it a little bit, give that a little tap. That's it. We're all done. We're really waiting for Mother Nature to accommodate sap flow. You get that difference in temperature between day and night, then that really gets the sap moving in the tree. It'll come out of the tree through the tap holes we put in today, flow through the tubes, we'll collect it in the tanks, and then we'll have enough sap to fire up the evaporator. Really, before we even think about firing up the evaporator, we need at least 50 to 70 gallons of sap. You can always tell when we're evaporating, even if you're driving by on Meadowbrook Road, because there's so much steam produced by the operation.
You can see the cart that we use to pick up the sap in the woods, and we pump it from this truck, small truck, into our storage tank above, and then from the storage tank above, it flows by gravity into our evaporator, which is inside the building. In this building, we process the sap, so we're taking it from roughly 2, maybe 3% sugar in the raw sap from the trees to 66% sugar. We call it a sugar shack, and it's a specially designed building to allow the excess steam from the evaporation process to escape out the ceiling, out the roof. We have vents at the top of the building that let the steam evaporate. We have a series of pipes bringing the cold sap into this preheater. This machine is called a steamaway, and it preheats the sap from roughly 30 degrees to about 160 degrees. All it does is take the cold sap and preheat it so that it will, and in the process we blow air through it, and it causes a false boil. The false boil separates a little bit of the water out of the sap. As a byproduct, we get hot water, which we use to clean our buckets and so forth. It flows from the preheater, the steamaway, into the primary evaporator. The primary evaporator takes the 2% sap, and by the time it goes through this primary, it's become 50% sugar. From here, it increases in temperature gradually as it goes across, and at that point it's syrup when it's 7 degrees above the normal boiling point. So it's 219 degrees is syrup. Now we will confirm that with a hydrometer. So our temperature gets us close, but the hydrometer is the absolute test. And as you can also tell, the color starts getting darker as it goes across this finished evaporator.
You check the temperature there to make sure it's ready to take off. And it's just ready now to start drawing off. We make about 10 gallons a day maybe, or a good day. We're just getting started real good. Today is going to be our best day.
This is the last step in our maple syrup making process, so this is the bottling process. So we start out with the syrup that comes in 3 to 4 gallon buckets. When it comes in, it's been sitting in the bucket for a day or two so that we can decant off the syrup and leave a lot of the sugar sand in the bottom of the bucket. So this is the sugar sand. They're minerals that are also concentrated when we're evaporating all the water off to make syrup. And so you got calcium, magnesium, that sort of thing. Most of this, if you let the syrup sit in a bucket, will settle out to the bottom. But to catch all of it, we pass it through the filter. And that eliminates this gritty tasting material from the syrup. So all you get is just the pure syrup in the bottles. The advantage of working with syrup, one of the advantages, is that the sugar content is so high, microorganisms really can't live in there very successfully. It actually is not a good conducive environment for them. Anyway, we bring it up to boiling. We test it with a hydrometer to make sure that it's in fact syrup. So we'll fill the cup with syrup, we'll drop the hydrometer in there, and if it comes up to this red line, that's the hot test line, then it is in fact have the sugar content to be syrup. So when we get to that point, it's boiling, we'll run it through this filter press, and it comes in the pump end of the filter press, goes on out the top and into this collection tank. There's a thermometer on the collection tank, and we have to make sure that when we bottle the syrup, It's always above 180 degrees so that we can wash the entire inside of the bottle with that 180 degree syrup and make sure that the bottle is sterilized in that way. After we fill up the bottles like John's doing now, we cap them and invert them so that the whole inside of the bottle is washed with that hot syrup. And then we just let them sit and cool in the boxes. When they are cool, we put a label on them indicating the year and where they were made. We put a nice gold foil cap and a nice label on the side, and then it's ready for sale or given away to our volunteers. We usually make about 80 gallons of syrup, and so each one of these boxes is approximately 1 gallon. So when we're all done, we'll have 80 boxes that are filled with syrup. On a regular season, we end up giving away or selling about 60 gallons of that to our group here on the site, and anything that's left over from that I sell to the public. A lot of people are interested in the whole maple syrup making process, so we get contacted by school groups, daycare places, mostly youth type organizations, and they'll want to bring out a group of 10 to 40 people that will come on out and see what we're doing out here. So we do the whole tour with them. Every kid gets a chance to at least experience the tapping a little bit. Generally we do that with our bucket system, where we'll have a few buckets and we'll just put them out for the kids. And then we talk about the tubing system, and then we take the kids back into the sugar shack, and they get a chance to see the evaporation process, because by then we will actually have sap and we boil stuff off. They can see the sap, they can see the fire in the firebox, they can see the steam rising out of the evaporator, and then all the kids get a little taste of maple syrup. That kind of completes their tour.